Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Henshins. So we are talking about episode 39 today of Kamen Rider Revice. Like I said last episode, I think that finally they've kind of turned things back around to the quality we were used to previously. And it's not that all of the 30s were awful garbage. I think they kind of struggled a little bit once they decided to, be done with the Deadmans as villains, both with Alteka being destroyed, as far as we know. Uh, and Hana and Tamaki fully reforming and joining Weekend, or Hana becoming, Kamen Rider Aguilera, that they hadn't have enough time by that point to fully characterize Giff as a threat. He's more of a force of nature type of villain, which is fine, but we need something to like latch onto villain wise, and the most we have is a Kaishi, and he's not the best either. But anyway, so 39, pretty decent plot. So after last week's episode, it starts off with Reverend Vice cleaning up some bad guys, the Give Juniors around town or whatever, and they're doing their thing. But at the same time, Weekend is trying to reach out to people saying, "Hey, was it the Ararata or whatever the thing is that the center they go to get stamped. He's saying you don't have to do that if you don't want to, if you don't feel comfortable with it, that's fine. Come with us. We will, keep you guys safe. We'll keep you guys free. You don't have to listen to Giff. He is a menace." Trying to convince people, like, help them understand, like, Giff is clearly. I don't. That's one thing that's odd with this storyline is that I don't know why Weekend has to do so much convincing that Giff is a threat. Like, wouldn't any normal human see this like giant like demonic Satan ass looking motherfucker and like be like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. Like he'd probably be on the neighborhood watch and take my daughter to prom. Like, no, it's a demon. Demon equals bad means not good. Don't follow. Like, but you know what? In saying that, though, in the current times we live in, there's all these, like, you would say these exaggerated things like, I bet such and such would happen and no one will care. And then those things really do happen and it's true. Nobody cares. Same thing, like, with, like, how we feel about, like, the COVID epidemic, like, or pandemic. Like, people being so uncaring about it and not seeing how much of a big threat it is. Same thing here. Because not, like, everybody is like, woohoo, Weekend, but some are, right? So they're doing their thing. At one point, fake Weekend mom gets killed, and I guess we're supposed to care and like be like hurt by it and like be like feel bad for Hikaru, I guess. But like he acts like it was his real mom, and it's like you guys talked about how you're not a real family. It's like a spy setup, and it's just like a fake thing to infiltrate and blah blah blah. So like I'm not saying you can't care about her dying, but he's acting like his actual physical birth mother just got like ripped in half in front of him. Sure, she got like pretty brutally killed in front of him, but I mean, we don't. I guess my thing is that with Weekend, they're an interesting idea, but they're it's all about how it's being done, how it's being put together, in that yes, they're there, but besides like the first few times where we're like, what the hell's going on in the basement? They've had nothing interesting going on. Yeah, they're the ones that kind of got the Libera driver working for, Sakura to use eventually and sent it to her mysteriously and blah, blah, blah. And, they have Daddy Karazaki and everything. And that's an interesting foil to what we have with the Revice group, right? Because we have George with Ikki and Vice, Sakura, and Daiji at that point. And on the flip side, we have Weekend, where they have, kind of Sakura also. But I mean, like they have a Karzaki on both sides, like they kind of reflect each other, whatever. But we don't spend enough time with anybody on that side other than Daddy Karazaki, kinda, to really care about them. Again, I'm not trying to act like I don't care about humans dying or people dying. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it doesn't have the same depth to it and the same, like, like pull and emotional grab for it. When we spent next to zero time with the characters to see why they care about each other so much and to see why it would be such a big deal if one of them were to pass away. If they were to do it in a way where it was like shit that happened to him, he's like, oh shit, now it's serious, and like gotta punch people, like did the whole flyaway thing when he first transformed into over demons, and like saved a bunch of people, got him out of there, and was like, that does affect me. I feel awful about that, but I gotta stick to the mission. That's different. That's different, and it'd be like a nice foil to Daiji, where Daiji's sticking crazily psychopath-like to his mission of like wanting people to follow Giff, and have Akaro reflect that on the other side, where he's more focused on his mission of saving people and keeping people safe, and blah 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 blah. So again, just didn't have the emotional depth they wanted it to. Like, I guess I feel kind of bad because he's a young kid, but that's about it. That's where it ends. So anyway, that whole thing, and the fake dad's like, it's fine, blah blah blah. She knew what she was getting into. Don't be a pussy type of thing. um, and yeah, and then the other side of it is Daiji doing his thing, and Akaishi. At one point, he comes to this place where the weekend people are talking to the people. The weekend like resistance members, whatever, rebels are talking to the people, and he comes out there to talk to him too, and he's like, "Don't listen to him. He must conform to GIF and blah blah blah." And pretty much everybody just like bully, like group, like flash mob bullies Daichi. They're just like, "Shut up! You're stupid. We don't believe you. We have the Kamen Riders on our side," as if he's not a Kamen Rider. It's just, God, they're just really beating poor Daichi into submission here. Again, I used to not like totally love this like arc they were going for, but I think it's really interesting near this close to the end of the show that we're getting a flip in him morality wise, that he thinks siding with the villain is the good thing, kind of a thing. And I like that it's not from a side of like, yeah, I've always been bad my whole life, but like it's from a side of like hopelessness. And I think that's kind of interesting that he like doesn't know, like he can't, he's so blinded by his loyalty and by his sense of justice that he thinks solely justice is what we should focus on and nothing else. And I kind of respect that and like that about that part of the storyline. They're doing better with him now. It's been rough the road to get here. I'm sorry, I got a bit of a goofy throat situation. But it's interesting what they're doing with it now, and I don't hate it necessarily. So anyway, they're doing their thing. They all, group bully Daiji, and he transforms and fights some of the, Gift Juniors a little bit and blah blah blah. And at one point we get a fight between him and Revi, and like Ikki in his ultimate Revice form. And it's pretty brutal. And Sakura joins in too, and she actually like is like pissed at him too, because they're like, "Why aren't you coming home with us? Like, stop this. This is ridiculous," and blah blah blah. And they have this big, long drawn out fight. One interesting thing I want to point out is in the beginning of the episode when Vicky and Vice were saving people, they get done, and for some reason Vice wants him to flick him in the head real quick to see how it would feel, and he does it, and he's like, "Oh!" He's like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "Are you okay? I'm sorry, I forgot we were in ultimate form." Like, I like them playing around with the powers. I think it's kind of a fun thing to see. Like, yeah, it's cool to see them transform and fight and everything, and it's badass. But to see them in those forms dinking around with the powers and seeing what they can do is really funny to me, and I really like it. So, anyway, so they have their fight, and Daiji ends up, of course, getting his ass beat yet again. He does not come close, but I mean, he stands his ground for a little while. And I think at one point, Vale tries talking to him before the fight and mentions something about partnering with him, that he's separate from Genta now, and blah, 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 or Junpei, whatever. And, you should partner with me. And he's like, "No, I'd never do that," and blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of hoping Kagero comes back into things. I'm kind of getting bothered that they're like hinting towards it and doing nothing with it. I also liked there was a little nod in it. So the whole thing with Ikki, that every time he uses the power of, like transforming and everything with Vice and all that the whole memory thing, right? So they're talking to the dad at one point, and he's saying how they need to relax at some point. Like, he knows they're busy now, but at some point want to go on a vacation together. He's like the one we took to the springs. And he's like, "What hot springs?" And he doesn't remember when they were at the hot springs, when they got, I think it's when they got the Forze Kong Vice stamp or whatever. He doesn't remember that at all. And even Vice is like, "How do you not remember?" And is trying to help him realize like it's affecting your memory and everything. And I think Ikki basically says like, "I know that that's happening. I'm sorry, I don't remember that, but I have to like do what I can and transform and fight to help keep people safe. Like, I'm willing to like, forsake that or sacrifice that if it means I'm keeping people safe and stopping GIF." And again, Ikki has been solid all the way through. He's not been affected by the like so-so-ish quality of the last few episodes. And I like that a lot. He's very much stuck to the whole like it's almost taking his like big brother role to like the next level of like, I'm not only big brother to my family in terms of keeping them safe, but I'm big brother to the world now because I'm a Kamen Rider and I have these powers that I can use to help keep people safe. So therefore, I need to use those as much as I can to keep people safe. And I really like that. I know that it's very goody two shoes and whatever, but I love that like unbroken resolve he has to keep people safe. It's very the core of Kamen Rider, and I love that about Ikki. So anyway, they have their fight, and of course Daiji loses, duh. And he untransforms and pulls a gun on his siblings. And it's like, dude, can you relax? Like, you're really just going to straight murder your family? I don't think so. you're not that guy. You're not that guy. I did also like in this episode that we got Hiromichi in there again doing his thing, helping with their efforts and everything. I think this is the one where was it this episode? I'm pretty sure it was this one or last one, whatever. Where maybe I didn't talk about it. Where George tries to apologize to him about what happened, shows him the mass-produced driver, and he says, "Well, I don't think I can use that ever again for what your experiments did to me. I don't think I'd be able to again." He's like, "Well, these are actually, you don't need a demon to do it, but you're right, it might still affect you poorly, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "For what it's worth, you may not forgive me, but I am sorry." And I like that. I like that George apologized for it because it was a very gray area of what he was doing with Hiromi, and like he was like okay with him being affected so poorly by the Veil, by Veil within the Demon's Driver. So yeah, very interesting that he got that. And he doesn't say that he like, accepts the apology by any means. He actually almost hits George and then George kind of walks away. But yeah, so overall a decent episode. I probably would still give it probably a strong 8.5 out of 10. It was definitely a good step up from the last two we've gotten. Last 2 weeks episode was great because it was a final form debut. Also loved in last episode that Icky and Vice getting the stamp back and then them pulling it apart, and like when they did it, Vice was like, "We have the power together to defeat Gift. Nothing can stop us." I like that. That like kind of like call to arms, like talk about like their like ambitions and everything is really cool. Um, and I kind of personally like where we're going with Daiji with this whole dark psychopath type of thing right now. I'm hoping that he'll eventually get pulled out of it. It would seem either in the preview or in some preview pictures that somebody possibly is offering him the Veil Driver. So I wonder if that's how we'll get to see Kamen Rider Veil again, is him using the Veil Driver and contracting with Veil. If he does so, though, I really don't see a way him pulling away from Veil. And I think that Daiji might be possibly the one tragically to go near the end of the series, just because Veil doesn't have anything in him that would redeem him and make him good. So I hope that Daiji decides not to, and that doesn't happen. But we'll see what happens exactly. But overall, a decent episode. Again, definitely in the same quality as last week, and still like trying to do some things better than we've gotten before writing wise. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What did you guys think of this week's episode of episode 39 of Revice? What did you think of the storyline with Daiji, everything going on with George and Hiromi being back in general, and everything going forward, what we're going to do about Akaishi and GIF and all of that. Also in the preview for next week's episode, we see Akaishi sort of transforming. It doesn't look like a rider transformation necessarily. It looks like GIF's hand over him and it goes like this, and then he transforms into like a monster form basically. And I'm happy. I don't want him to be a rider. Rider versus Rider fights are cool, and it's fun when the villains are like an evil rider and blah, 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 but like it doesn't have to be. And I'm so happy that he's just a monster. Thank God. Thank GIF. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this week's episode. Love it, hate it, in the middle. Any other things you want to point out and talk about. Content-wise, I did get my Don Brothers episode 14 review up. Check that out if you guys are wanting to see what I thought about this week's episode. Pretty soon, I'm hoping to get some Toku Toy views out there. One for sure on the Giffard Rex stamp once that comes in. And a few other things I'm going to probably go back and review a little bit, like the Thunder Gale stamp and a few other things. But let me know if there's other stuff you want me to talk about. I'm contemplating making a playlist about Star Wars stuff, talking about maybe some of the movies, the shows, the games. I just finished Knights of the Republic, the Sith Lords Restored, content mod version or whatever, and enjoyed it. So if you want me to talk about that, let me know. Or Kenobi, depending on if you guys want to hear about that, my thoughts on that. But until next time, stay hooked on those henshin. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.